Hi Edward, and let's break down animations. This will be a quick one. I'll just give a couple notes. So the top one works really well. I think the only thing that we really need is to push it in terms of design. Right now, I think the difference between these two masses is not big enough. And there are a couple other places where we build the masses that are very similar, which gives us a very clear line of symmetry. And it happens here as well, because this scene and this scene and this scene, they essentially create a smiling face, which is very symmetrical. And this is like his chin, somewhere over here. So I would push the difference in placement and mass between these parts and this part. And other than that, I think the effect is working pretty well. And if you want, you can increase the delay. So you see how it breaks it up into smaller particles. So all the smaller particles are here, all the medium particles, most of medium particles are here. So we can make, for example, a even longer delay on one side rather than the other side, and make the sizes of the particles here more varied. So the thing that I like in the top one, and the thing that I think doesn't work as well as the bottom one, is variety of direction and spacing. So the top one works really well in terms of motion, and the interesting aspect of the motion and variety in motion totally compensates some of the shortcomings of the design. In the bottom one, I think the motion is pretty nice and pretty smooth and consistent. The issues that I'm seeing right now is that, again, we have very distinct directions that are totally unconnected. So we have this direction and we have this direction. So all the masses going initially in this direction, and then starts going a bit more to the left. But generally it's going like this. All the holes are going pretty much in this direction. And they're not very connected, so there's no influence, like it doesn't push the mass to go like this. It doesn't push it to rotate. And the way that it's created, it's nice. It doesn't tell us as much about the force or the form. So if we look at it, it's pretty linear and a bit even, aside from some changes. So you see, the majority of it is even spacing. So spacing is roughly the same. We don't get accelerations, we don't get decelerations, and we don't get variety in directions. So here we have like it's erasing here, it's erasing here, it's erasing here, erasing like this. So we have force that is active and that is varied. And if we look here, we have very linear force, which can also create pretty cool stuff, but we can't push it way more to make it much more interesting. For example, if we push the force like this, and let, for example, this part rise more and swirl, so we create a force here that is pushing harder. We create a force here that is moving more in a curve rather than moving in a straight line, and we push these masses and let the force interact more with the shape and change it. I think it will be more interesting. And this will also help us balance the composition, because again, all the big forms are here, all the small forms are here. and we create a very clear division between them. And because of this, these small shapes can't help us build a more interesting composition at the top, because all of them are at the bottom. And so we don't get that much variety here. And if you look at it structurally and compositionally, so we go like this, and then this is kind of a rectangle. And it keeps being a rectangle that is pretty evenly erased over time. So it would be nice to have some delays, to have some variations, of course. When we're erasing it with the hull, with the force, we can reveal, for example, some hidden forms of the shape. We don't have to do it absolutely linearly. We just have to do it consistently. So we can erase shapes even like this, revealing new forms and transitioning between different shapes, rather than doing it simple like this. So that's the main comment here. And the second comment is that, again, we have this force that is pushing it up to the right, but it doesn't seem to influence any other masses. And these ones, for example, just seem to linearly move to the right. And again, we don't get that much variety. Or like this form is almost uninfluenced by this force, and it just goes to the right as well for the majority of the time. So motion-wise, pretty nice. Shape-wise, we can definitely push it, make it more varied, make sure that the particles don't decrease in size at the same time, and don't stay completely disconnected from the main shape, and don't disappear at the same time. So you see, with each frame it disconnects more and more, and at the end we don't get any variety, and we have this small area of particles and this big area of particles, but there is no interaction between them. So from a frame like this, I would imagine that the shapes, maybe this is one, maybe this is two. And create a bigger mass and erase it here. One, two. I also probably need to push it more. maybe 1, 2, and then 3, 3 would be something like. I don't know, maybe something like this. And you can try these things out and come up with different interesting variations using thumbnails. So again, you're just doing a couple of quick sketches for the animation before you start it and find interesting shapes or interesting ways to break it up on transitions between scenes. And then you just start animating, and if you're stuck or don't know how to change the design, you just refer back to your sketches and look at the ways that you can change it. So hope that helps you a bit, and wishing good luck with your animations.